Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 242, and this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week, and everything in between. So this week I had a pretty average number of books, which is 19. So number 19 for me this week was Justice League No Justice, issue 2. Just haven't been able to get into this arc as much as I wanted to. Love the artwork. Really, I'm a huge fan of Francis Manapul. And I do like the combination of, I believe it's Cho, who's doing, I guess, sharing art duties with Manapul. And really, I feel like it's very seamless the way they share art duties. But yeah, the story just, I can't get into it. I feel like it's very cluttered and nothing happens until that ending page, pretty much in every issue so far. So I hope there'll be a better direction after we actually get into its individual series, but now it just feels extremely crowded and just not really hearing a lot of voices in the sea of voices. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars, and that's number 19. So moving on to number 18. Another team book, which was Avengers, issue 2. So the team books this week did not do so well for me. This one, I like the nostalgia. I like the idea of, I mean, you open up the page of, you know, the trio, Thor, Captain America, Iron Man, going into the fight, and then you have Excelsior in the end of that panel, which was fun. But also another book that just feels crowded. I don't really know what direction they're going besides let's fight the big bad guy. Obviously they're not a team yet, and even some of the voices kind of feel off for me, like Jen, which actually was a part that I liked more, still having the I Am Hulk stage of her life, where in her own series she kind of got over that. So, or at least she was green, and she did not talk like I Am Hulk in that series, so, or at least in the end of that series. So that's a little strange to me. The artwork is still a bit cartoony, even though I like it, I guess. It's just, I don't love the artwork. So overall, I'm going to give this 2.5 stars. Definitely still going to pick it up. Still like the nostalgic feel to it, but just a bit crowded and not feeling the team dynamic, obviously, because there is no team yet. So hopefully it improves as we actually get towards the team. Moving on to number 17, which is Superman Special, issue 1. Not a bad book, but also not a very impressive book for $4.99. Really didn't care about the last 2 stories. I semi-liked the Dinosaur Island stuff, just because of the concept of John wanting to save this guy. I liked the Lois and Clark scene in the end. Was it worth $4.99? Not so much for me. I don't think any of the book was really worth the price tag, even though art was solid, especially for their first story. Let me see, the second story had okay artwork. Brian Hitch, not always a fan of his. It's a little bland for me, and brings back the Justice League stories I didn't really like. And then I didn't really like the artwork for the last story. And again, wasn't really impressed with either of those 2 stories. So I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars for Superman Special. Just don't know if it's worth picking up. Number 16 is Cave Carson Has an Interstellar Eye, issue 3. You know, this book I really enjoyed the last chapter, but now it's gotten a little bit too out there, where I think it misses the beats of Cave as a character and Chloe, who I've always liked. And I liked Chloe's scenes here, you know, fighting with a pipe in her mouth, I think is fun. And then, you know, Cave and Chloe's dynamic's really fun, but the story is just, again, so out there. I wish it was, you know, still the psychedelic Cave Carson we had in the last chapter, but a little bit more grounded in plot compared to this one. So I gave this 2.5 stars. I know this is ending with issue 6, so I'm gonna stick with it, but I definitely like the last volume better. Alright, so moving on to number 15, which is Hunt for Wolverine, The Claws of a Killer, issue 1. Didn't really like the opener with Wolverine, and I wish we got, you know, Dakin, or Dakin, however you pronounce his name, and, you know, Sabretooth and the rest of the crew, just how they got together. I do like the concept of this book, though, of, seeing that they want to save Wolverine to kill him, I thought was a really interesting concept. I just think everything around it, the execution to get to that concept could have been a little bit neater. I did like the art style though. It definitely is the grittiness that you want from a book like this. So I'll definitely keep picking it up because I want to get all the Wolverine books, but wasn't as impressed with this first chapter, just again with the execution of it all. So I'm going to give that 2.5 stars. Moving on to number 14, which is a new book, Flavor, issue 1, which just looked like an interesting concept. Seeing cooking in a comic I thought was interesting, because there was an art to cooking, so why not add some actual artwork to this concept. And it's kind of medieval type storyline, which is I couldn't get into. I wanted more of the cooking, but I gave this 3 stars. It definitely was a well put together book. You could definitely see that. It just wasn't my personal thing. So I'm going to give that 3 stars, and as number 14. Number 13 this week is Bloodshot Salvation, issue 9. Sad to see this lower because I love this book, but this is a complete filler. It's this dream that Bloodshot's dog has about him being in the war and being this soldier. It just didn't feel like it, you know, fit the story, especially because we had so much momentum with Bloodshot's daughter, his, you know, that whole future storyline thing going on, how she grew up. I didn't need this stall. It just kind of felt so fillerish to me. But the artwork was really great, and it's an interesting story. It definitely was an interesting concept. I just don't think it was told at the right time. So I'm going to give this 3 stars. Moving on to number 12, which is The Mighty Thor at the Gates of Valhalla, issue 1. I thought this was going to be higher because I thought this was going to be a little bit more of a send-off to Jane. I thought the whole book would be about Jane, but it's really about, well, the first story is about these 3 women who are also like God of Thunders or gods of thunder? Goddesses of thunder. And they go to all these different eras. They're like, it's not this door, it's not this door. And they meet up with Jane. And it's a really cool conversation. I thought that part, that sliver of the issue is definitely my favorite. And, you know, definitely gives a lot of clues that Jane very soon will be picking up the mantle. The next war, the next event of Thor, it looks like Jane's going to be playing a big part, just for enough time for her to heal. I'm excited for that because I'm a huge Jane Foster fan, so, and that's what got me into Thor, so excited to see what's going on with that. I did like the lead-in to the next story because it wasn't just this separate, oh, right, here's another story. It actually does combine to tease whatever this War of the Realms is going to be and what this means for Earth, which I was excited about. But I didn't like the artwork as much for this one, especially after you have some beautiful artwork here with, what's her name, Jen Bartel's art, which I've seen on Twitter and I really like, especially the way she draws woman. So I thought that was a great pick, but I just felt like the other art was a little smudgy to me. Same for the coloring, and especially once you got to the Jane's death scene from the last issue of The Mighty Thor, just because it was so beautiful, Russell Doderman's artwork. It just kind of was a sidestep with this issue. But I like what we're getting from that story. I just was kind of bored with some of the dialogue of our character there, but I got the point by the end, and then I got pumped, like, oh, that's what this is going to lead up to. So overall, I gave this 3 stars. Again, it wasn't exactly what I expected, but definitely still worth picking up if you're a Jane fan. If you want to know what's going to be happening in Thor, it's definitely an important issue to pick up. So moving on to number 11, which is Cable. And I think I gave it 3 stars. Maybe I gave it 3.5. I'm gonna, you know what, I'm gonna bump that to 3.5 because I do think it is an important issue. So I'm gonna bump that issue 3.5, like I said. So moving on to number 11, which is Cable issue 157. I've been liking this book overall. If you're a Cable fan, it goes back to his history, which is cool. I want more hope, though. Always do. I think it's a little scattered, the issues. I don't know how they're all combining by the end, because, like, alright, now we're getting to see Cable's half-brother. Cool. Hopefully by the end of this arc we gotta see how this all combines, but it's still good storytelling. I'm entertained throughout the book. I think the artwork definitely fits the tone you want for a Cable book, kind of 90s, but not so 90s that it's, you know, bad artwork, but it's nostalgic to the 90s with some really great deep coloring here, so I like it. So overall, I gave this one 3.5 stars. I've been enjoying Cable overall with the new direction they've been going. All right, number 10 is Barrier, issue 3. I'm surprised to see this so high because there were no words at all, which I kind of liked. You know, there's some really striking moments here where we get to see the girl and the guy connect, and you know, she sees this Coke. And you think she's gonna drink it all, and she actually shares it with the guy, and you get to see them connect without words, and I thought that was really moving, and just some gorgeous artwork overall. I had to give it a 3.5. You know, I'm not totally connected to the book yet, but definitely see the artistic value in the book, and I really saw this with issue 3, and I like that it kind of goes on a limb a lot of the times with this book, so I think it's interesting, so I'm going to give that 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 9, which is Infidel, issue 3, which I'm sad to see this is just a mini-series. I do really like it, but I thought this was a little slower compared to the other ones because our main character is, like, unconscious, so we don't get to see her voice, but we get to see her supporting characters, and again, this underlining, you know, view of racism, which I think has just been so great with this book, and very similar to Get Out. If you like Get Out, I think this has a very similar tone to it. But yeah, definitely go check this one out. I enjoy it. Again, this issue is a little slower just because it's more about the supporting characters, but I mean the artwork is striking, and it definitely gives you an interesting cliffhanger, again closer to this mystery of who are these monsters and what this horror element of this book is. So I'm gonna give that 3.5, and that is number 3. I mean, that was issue 3, but that was not number 3, that was number 10. No, that was number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, issue 27. A little lower, just because I felt this was a little slower than the previous issues. But there were some scenes I really enjoyed. I think especially Jason and the Red Samurai Ranger. I really liked their connection, just seeing two Rangers talking. I thought was a lot of fun, and Kyle Higgins really plays it well in the scene where they're in the Zord. That had to be my favorite scene. But even just seeing the different, you know, different Power Rangers again was really cool. Like, the page I really liked was where they're just explaining what's going on with the Rangers, and you have this awesome 2-page spread. The rest of it is just explaining. It's just pretty much, you know, their battle plan of what they're going to do. So that's why I'm saying it's a little slower this issue, because it's mostly just battle plan, and I definitely wanted to see Jen and Kimberly team up, and we didn't get to see that. But still a fun issue, beautiful artwork. So overall, I'm gonna give this 3.5 stars. So that was number 8, I believe. So moving on to number 7, which is Batman, issue 47, which I have to say is the weaker part of this arc, which I've overall been surprised that I like, because I'm not a Booster Gold fan by any means. So, but Tony S. Daniels' artwork is just so gorgeous. The detail he puts into this, and especially with, like, very violent characters, usually, like, with Deathstroke, I really like his artwork, and seeing gun-wielding Batman, I think Tony S. Daniel did a great job. And just some really great paneling, from, again, the relationship between King and all his artists, really, but just the scripting is really great. You could tell as you read his books. So, but yeah. The thing I didn't really like is once we get to the end where Booster Gold wants to change everything, I felt like the angles were kind of weird of where they're trying to save, well, actually not save, young Bruce's parents, and the way it jumps into our present storyline, I just thought it needed more pages to kind of explain that. It just felt like it was very rushed, the ending. Even though I like Booster Gold himself, like his dialogue of like, oh, I need to wipe my glasses clean, you know I did wrong. I really like Booster in this issue, but I think it took some missteps along the way. So I gave this 3.5 stars, still an arc you should read, but I thought this was just a weaker ending compared to the other parts we got from this arc. Alright, moving on to number 6, which is all new Wolverine, issue 35, the last issue. I'm glad I got the Deadpool Gabby variant and Jonathan on the cover. I thought that was really cool. So, really solid issue. Just gotta give it to Tom Taylor. His run on Laura Wolverine has been one of my favorite comics to read every month. I just love his voice on this title and him many titles. So, yeah, this is a really solid ending to Laura's run as Wolverine, how much she's grown as Wolverine, and then it brings that humor that Taylor is so good at doing, just the mix of humor, action, and everything else, emotion that he puts into this book. But I especially like the panels where, you know, there's that moment you think Wolverine's gonna pick up Thor's hammer, and she doesn't, and I thought that was hysterical. Usually in a last, you know, finale, it's like, yeah, of course Wolverine's gonna be worthy, and I love that she wasn't. I thought that was kind of a fun joke. And just the way that Laura defeats Doom, I thought was cool, and just the supporting characters utilized here was great. I love the kill, too, that she used her claw on her foot. It's always my favorite part of Laura, because that's the thing that's unique to her, and it really brings some interesting, dynamic action sequences to the page. So overall, and also love the artist. I think the artist does a great job at capturing the comedy, the action. Like I was saying, that Tom Taylor just has so many great things going on at once, and it just all works. So, solid 4 for me. Definitely read all new Wolverine if you haven't. So, moving on to top 5 now. We're on number 5, which is Fence, issue 6. Been really liking this series. I think it's very under the radar, but if you're a sports fan, or I would say a sports story fan, or anime fan, this is a must read. I love that we get to finally get that moment. You know, it's moments you know that are coming if you've seen sports stories. Like, alright, you know your underdog is somehow going to, you know, end up not being the underdog anymore and start winning his fight. And the way they do it here, it's such sports classic that I love, that we get to see our main character prove himself here and then try to make himself worthy against his rival who doesn't even see himself as a rival. It's such a fun book. Again, has some really fun anime-esque aesthetic to it. Solid read. So I gave that 4 stars, and that was my number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is the Dead Hand issue 2, which I'll probably end up picking up printed next time, because I really like this book. And I like the girl, so we get to learn a little bit more about this French spy, and that she's the mother of that teenage girl we saw in the last issue. She's vicious. I love this scene where they capture this writer, and they're like, alright, you know, it's fine, we won't kill you. And then she just gets the gun out and totally kills him. It's just such a fun spy thriller. If you like the Cold War, or Cold War stories and spy stuff, read this. It's so thrilling. I think it's just a really cool thriller type comic book. And then also add some comics into it. Also, you have some mystery of this little kid that our main character talks to, and you're wondering, like, who is he? He's fake, it looks like. So a lot of cool mystery going on as well. So I give this 4 stars. Artwork is also beautiful, really matches the tone of what's going on here for a spy thriller. So I gave that 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is the finale of the Archies, issue 7. I actually got both covers. I have the other covers somewhere else, but I had a blast reading this. It's the Archies breaking up, but you're okay with it. And by the end, you see them all doing their own thing and having their own successes, and then playing one last time to an empty room. And if you know comics, you see that it actually is to create a team of the comic just sweeping up the floor. And I thought that was such a fun ending. I just had a blast with this series. If you're a music fan, you're an Archie fan, this is such a must-read. a must-read book here. So much fun. And if you like Josie and the Pussycats, they have a really cool moment in this issue, and you get some musical guest appearances in this issue as well. So I gave this 4 stars. Definitely pick up the Archies, like I said. It just was a blast to read. I'm sad that it's ending, but it had a really good ending and a really good run overall. So moving on to number 2, which is Injustice 2, issue 26, another Tom Taylor book. And man, that cover, so striking. Really emotional issue where we get to see Batman comes to his home, sees that Catwoman might be dead, but Catwoman's too much of a badass to be dead. And same thing for Alfred, and it's his daughter. And I really love the conversation between the two, where his daughter's like, "You're the greatest detective, you didn't know I existed." And she's kind of this spoiled brat who knows how to kill. And that's exactly what you get here. And you're worried, is Alfred gonna die? And then Ace dies, and like, oh my god. You know, the stakes are up now, and you get to see that Batman's friends are the ones who save the day, and I really like that. Beautiful artwork throughout, just so many great emotions for a book that was very emotional, so I gave this one 4.5 stars. I thought it was a really well done issue. Moving on to my pick of the week. So, if you guys know me, you probably know what my pick of the week is, and that is X-Men The Wedding Special, issue 1. As a Kitty Pryde fan, I loved both Kitty Pryde stories. First of all, Chris Claremont, I think, really put his heart and soul in that one, short story about Kitty, just showing her journey and what she's gone through. I loved it. I was reading every line like 3 times. That's how much I loved it. And the artwork was so 80s X-Men, and I actually liked that a lot. And it really just shows Kitty's journey, how much she's gone through. She was the youngest X-Men to being a badass ninja who was able to withstand being held into a bullet. And then you get to see her present day of being a bartender, which we've seen in the past, but who knew she was a bartender now? Which I believe actually was in an Elseworld Kitty Pryde book. I don't think that was actually in continuity that she was a bartender, but then we got to see Lockheed, which made me happy because we have not seen Lockheed in a while. So I enjoyed all that. And then, you know, her seeing her dad, I thought, you know, I'm glad that they brought her family more into it. You get to see glimpses of the importance of her religion. It really brought the whole essence of who Kitty is, and shed a tear. I didn't actually shed a tear, but it was a really cool, moving story. Then we get to the middle story, which is why I can't give this a 5-star rating, because I just thought it wasn't as needed. I wasn't wondering what happened in what happened before to Colossus's bachelor party. It didn't, you know, I felt like the story was there in the previous X-Men Gold issue, so it just felt total filler. It felt kind of uninspired to me, so I didn't really like the middle story. Even though I actually did like Greg Land's artwork for the most part with the action, but yeah, was a little disappointed with the middle story. But then you go right to the ending with such a fun Kitty Pryde story with Kelly Thompson, where they go to strip karaoke. And then you combine those two. For some reason, I can't say that. But yeah, I thought that was so fun. That's her bachelorette party. And, you know, Kitty's having cold feet, of course. And her friends try to, you know, make her have a nice party. And she obviously has to have some sort of fight in between there. Really like the artwork overall. And I am just going to say it's canon that Kitty Pryde's bi. And that little panel of saying, oh, it's a co-ed strip club, it's like, I just want to say Kitty Pryde's bi, just because it's always been there, but it's never been completely confirmed. It's not even completely confirmed here, but I'm just going to say that anyways, that one panel is just going to be my headcanon that Kitty Pryde is bi, and that's why they took her to a co-ed strip club. But yeah, overall, I just really enjoyed the issue. Love the friends that are brought into the story. I love like the little Jean remark in the end. It's like, I've been dead, so we have a lot of songs to sing. Oh, and the panel with Emma Frost. I love that. It's just like, because Emma and Kitty have a horrible relationship with each other. But they highlighted so many great relationships here. All the important ones. If you're a Kitty fan, this is such a great story. Really, I think both stories hit the mark with Kitty. Colossus, on the other hand, if you're a Colossus fan, I think it might have been a little disappointing. But I really enjoyed this issue. So I'm going to give this 4.5 stars. And can't wait to see the actual wedding in X-Men Gold. So let me know in the comments below, what did you think? This is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links to my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I hope you guys enjoyed.